Hi, this is Brian from Tucson. I'm going to show you how to replace an exterior door handle on a 2004 Hyundai Accent. The typical failure mode of the handle breaking is right here at this juncture, so that when the handle tries to lift up, it's no longer connected to this lever with the yellow. Well, the new one's wide, but it's yellowed with age, so you can see where this area is broke. We had the same problem on the passenger side, but it was complicated by the fact that the child safety latch was engaged and the handle was broke on the outside, so we couldn't open it from the inside from the normal latch over there. So, and with this handle being broke on the outside, we had to cut away, as it's shown here, to be able to reach the lever. Remember, if you can open your door, you don't have to do this. Simply skip to the next section on how to remove the interior door trim panel. What I used just as a Dremel tool and a heavy-duty cutting abrasive blade. So what I did, as you can see, is there's a line. Just took the Dremel tool, cut across. I'm making the space a little bit wider. So here's kind of how I did it. There's plenty of space back behind the handle itself. You reach around. There's a mounting bolt over here and over on this side also. So there's plenty of room to, you don't have to worry a whole lot about that. This plastic does melt, be sure and wear your eye protection. And you can see here where it's kind of melted as I cut it across. Once you have the area cut away, you can see this thing here, this little loop, and if you pull down on it, it'll release the door. There are 5 screws that need to be removed. First one's in the door latch, one's at the bottom of the door panel, the upper right hand corner of the door panel, and then also in the door handle itself there's 2 screws that must be removed prior to removing the door panel. To remove the door latch trim kit here and the latch itself, simply push the whole body to the left or toward the front of the car, whichever side you're working on, and that will cause the assembly to release from the back panel. As you can see, there's these clips here are what retain it inside the clips in the metal portion of the body. So that's all what's needed to remove the door latch assembly. The next thing to remove is this car has power windows, is to remove the power window switch. You just flip it up underneath there and pry gently, and inside there's a clip, and that's released by pushing on this center tab right there, and it releases. With the power window switch removed, we now need to take off the trim panel itself. You started by putting a screwdriver or pry bar up underneath the edge, and if you just look up underneath the edge, you'll be able, I can't show it really on the camera, but you'll see white plastic catches that hold the door panel up against there. I'll show you a picture of that here in a second. Once released, you pry gently. Okay, I have the pry bar in there. You see the little white area back toward the back. I don't know how well you can see that, but that's one of the retainer clips. I'm going to pop one and then go around once it's released, I'll put my fingers between the door trim panel and the door and pull all of them loose. Now the next part is to release the door panel itself. It's clipped up top here between the window and the door, and and if you lift up on it, it'll release. And if you rotate it 90 degrees, it's hard to do and look at the camera at the same time. If you release it 90 degrees, you can get the handle through the panel itself. The rear door panel, door trim panel has been removed, and you'll see a plastic liner that's designed to keep dust and water from outside, dust, air, and water from the outside get inside the passenger cabin. If you pull this plastic sheeting away, along the edge is a sticky material, something has a consistency similar to warm chewing gum. Inside the mechanisms, we'll start unclipping. This car has the power door locks. That's what this cable here is for. And to release the cables, you can lift up, pull back to on this plastic clip to release it from the rod itself. And a little tough to do one-handed, but it does release. Release that, you pull that rod loose. In the future, I'm planning on putting replacement power door locks. I'll show you how that works later on. There's additional door clips inside. That I'm trying to show. There's one here, and there's one further back here. And we'll need to release those in the same way, is that a pin will go through the hole and it's clipped to the side. Now, to get the actual handle itself, there's two 10mm bolts that have to be removed. One's right here, that's pretty easy to get to. The other one is very much a pain to get to. It sits all the way back over here. All the way back here, and I don't really have a tool that will get that. The best way to get that out is actually to remove the latch itself. There's 3 bolts, 3 screws here, Phillips head, and we'll attack that next. To remove these screws, these are easily stripped out, and they're often very, very tight. What I've used to do this is it's an old impact driver with the Phillips head across here, and it's designed, when you strike it with a hammer, it'll turn it about a 1/16 of a turn, and just to get those bolts released, because over time you can see a little bit of corrosion and such around the screws. That's what I use to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and knock those loose and pull out the screws. Okay, I was able to get all 3 of the bolts, the screws released, and I'm going to remove them and then start. We'll get back started here in a second. One thing I did was I removed the lock and latch cables from the this midway guide here. It just pops out, so I can get these completely out of the way. In fact, I can take them completely off. Next thing we need to do is remove this plastic piece to get stuff out of our way. And there's 2 screws, one here and one here. The screws have been released, and you just go ahead and twist this on around and pull up out of the way, set it aside. There's one more bolt, another 10mm bolt we need to do to get the power lock mechanism out of the way, and that's this bolt here, and then it will, the whole mechanism will go out of the way. There we go. So we get the whole latch mechanism out of the way, and once it is, we now have a pathway to get to that bolt, which I was pointing out to you earlier. You couldn't get to. You see deep inside there, and the only access port is through the latch area itself, and that's the little screw, the little bolt back there. So I'm going to remove that one by going through the latch gateway, and then that nut there again by removing the latch. I mean, these are both 10mm bolts. Back in the back you can see this one more rod and with that clip that needs to be removed, but we'll remove that after we get the bolts out for the handle itself. And again, this is looking through the door latch, and you can see the bolt back there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that, and then I'll show you how to take that last rod off. This is what the size of the nut looks like that holds a door handle in. They're real small. You don't want to drop them because they'll fall down inside the bottom of the door and pain in the butt to get on out. So both latches screws have been removed. I'll go back out to the outside, and you see the handle's ready to come out. Just needs a little convincing, and right there is that last rod. It has a similar type clip that I just released, and you pull it out of this keeper here. So this handle's hard. This rod's harder to remove because it has a special clip on the a special retainer. So what I did is I just used a pair of pliers, squeezed around it. The clip from the edge you can see is broke, and now we're ready to start putting things back together because everything's out of the way. Now we're ready to start putting things back together. You can see here on the clip for the new handle, which I got at Rock Auto. They were $4.80 I think. With shipping, it was a total of about $17. But it was here in 2 days, which mailed from Chicago area to Tucson, so it was great. So we'll start putting it back together. This method of retaining the bolt onto the socket is especially of value when you're trying to feed something through a little cavity like this, and the risk of it falling down is pretty substantial. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. It's hard to hold both sides of the handle and the camera. So I'll be back. So we got the handle in place with the gasket set in right. Now the next thing to do is to put the door lock back in place, the door latch, and just reach inside, grab a hold of it, and get the holes aligned. Don't worry about the rods and getting them in place. That'll come next. So right about there we'll get it started. Remember I told you I took these rods that goes from the inside latch over to the lock mechanism, took that off their midway retainers. We'll just snap those back into place and start putting together the actual rods into the lock mechanism. Here's two connecting rods, one with the you can see there's one's all the way up on top and one's all the way down at the bottom, and the top one goes to the lock mechanism and the bottom goes to the latch release mechanism. The one in the middle that you see here is where the power lock mechanism was in place, but we won't be using that anymore. So here's the rod with the little clip in place. It's that'll just slide back over the rod, and similar down below, the rod will goes through the center portion of it, and then there's a retainer that comes around and clips it into place. It'll come around on the tops from the top side. Getting close now. This plastic piece will go in back of the rods and wind around to the back side of the rods, and we'll screw these back in place. Got the plastic piece back in place, as you can see here. Got the rods in place. One thing to make sure is that when you put everything together, that the child-proof latch can move back and forth. Double check your mechanism so that when your door opens, it looks like it's operating okay. Same thing for the lock and the door mechanism, both with the child-proof lock latch in and when it's in the off position. Make sure everything's working okay. So everything's good there. Put the plastic piece back up using the same adhesive, and then it's time to put the door panel on itself, the door trim panel. When putting the door trim panel assembly door trim panel back in, remember to start it off at 90 degrees so that you can get that door latch in. And I need both hands to put in place, but you just rotate it around once it's through. And once you have the door panel in place, or getting ready, you need to get the top edge of the door panel has an edge in it that needs to fit back behind this edge in the window. So you need to put it up in place, tilt the bottom of it out, and start maneuvering it into place so that it catches that edge to the metal around the window. Once it gets started in place, tap it, and it'll fully seat down. You'll know it's fully seated down when this hole is lined up with that plastic piece in the door panel and back. So I got it set in. I gave it some good taps along here. Now we need to make sure that the power lock connector, bring it back on out here so you can see it, and you can see that this hole is lined up well with the plastic receptacle, plastic piece in the door panel, and then just push the door panel against the door, and you'll hear the retainer clips go back in place. Push completely around the door, make sure all the door pieces are in place, and that's about all it takes there. To insert the power window connector, there's the piece, and you can see that there's two grooves on the switch itself, or two male portions and there's a female portion where they meet up, and it'll clip into place. I'll see if I can do this one-handed across, and we'll hear it click. And double check that it's fully inserted. In this case it's not. There it goes. So it's fully inserted in place, and this just pushes down like that. For installing the door latch release, you set the back end into place and then pull toward this direction. Pull that way and it'll lock into place. So you have to push against the door and pull it back at the same time. There, that's retained in place. Now we put that screw in, we put the screw at the bottom of the door here, and we put this screw in here along with the door handle screws, 2 door handle screws, so a total of 5 screws. So all the screws are in place, the door trim panel is back in place. The last 2 items are to put these clips back on the these plugs on the door handle itself, and let's give it a go. So here's the new door handle, works fine. Childproof latch on, works fine, and we'll test it from the inside. Childproof latch on, doesn't open. Release the childproof latch. Try to open it from the inside. Opens, and we'll lock the door. And it's locked here and locked there. Opens and opens. So this is Brian from Tucson. That's how you replace an exterior door handle in the rear of a 2004 Hyundai Accent. Hope it's been helpful. May God richly bless your day.